History was made when a commercial flight landed in Tel Aviv and flew over Saudi airspace and landed in the United Arab Emirates. This was spearheaded by President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and had been the result of months of negotiations, which saw a restoration of diplomatic relations between both countries. Announced on the 13th of August, the normalization deal is the first such accommodation between an Arab country and Israel in more than 20 years. This historic flight is said to be a precursor to trade agreements and other things that could boost economic activities between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. And policy analyst Dayo Fagbulu and international relations expert Bola Adediran joins us now to discuss the historic flight between Israel and the United Arab Emirates after a peace deal. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Let me begin with you, Dayo Fagbulu. When you look at how long this has been coming, I mean, this is a third country in the third Arab country to recognize Israel as a country. And what do you make of this? Because a lot of people have said, look, this is a marriage of convenience.
Practically, that's what it is. I guess the issues are very simple. It's been long coming. It's been long in the waiting as far as everybody is concerned. It's the eventual analysis of everything. Everybody wants to, resolve whatever crisis we have, that has been brewing for so long. Of course, we know there are relatively a lot of other issues. There's the political aspect of it. The Kushners and Trump wanting to prepare for the elections in the US. Of course, the Saudis have never really had any problems with Israel per se. I mean, their position was just to take sides with the pan-Arab unionists. So, I mean, it's something that was long in the waiting, and it's happening already. That's it.
So many people say that this is a path to peace in the Middle East, but the Palestinians are against this deal. So how does, again, there was never any war between UAE and Israel. So how does a peace deal between two countries that were never at war promote peace in the Middle East?
There's a part to it. There's a part that's symbolic, which says, we're tired of all the problems that we've engaged in over the years. It has no commercial or economic value. It has no political value for us, because basically you must understand that the US is a binding factor. We've had rumors about, sales of military equipment to the UAE. We've had problems with Iran, Iraq, unsettling everything. It's in the interest of everybody to bring in as much peace as possible now that the UAE is prospering. It's that simple.
All right, so let me take the conversation to Dr. Bola Adediran. Many people also see this as more of an alliance and not an agreement, an alliance, especially one that is directed at regional powers like Iran and Turkey.
Thank you for having me. You're very correct in saying that a part of this deal is anchored on the security threat that Iran poses to states within the region. And we've been seeing security cooperation between the UAE and Israel for a while. In fact, we've been seeing covert security cooperation between Saudi Arabia and even Israel for a while. So for a lot of analysts looking at this, it is the primary reason behind the normalization of relationship between the UAE and Israel is more to first counter the threat posed by Iran, but on the other hand, also for UAE to ingratiate itself further into the hands of the US.
So a part of this deal is that Israel will cease its annexation of Palestinian lands. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's very important for us to mention that it's a suspension, and of course, Benjamin Netanyahu has been very clear that they've not taken it completely off the table, even though the US president and his advisors have said that for now it is off the table. So there is quite a lot of conflicting statements coming from both camps. But I think it's very important what that has done, because the attempt to annex parts of the West Bank has received a lot of international condemnation, and it's difficult to see how Israel will have gone ahead completely to annex those parts of West Bank because of the amount of international rejection and international opposition to that. So Israel in the first place was in a difficult position, but this has given Israel a face-saving opportunity to suspend that annexation. But more than all of this, I think it's important to also draw attention to the influence of Jared Kushner in all of this process. I mean, this is a person who has been derided for touting his knowledge of the peace process of Israel-Palestinian conflict. He said earlier this year that he's read 25 books on the region, and people derided him for thinking that he knew everything he could about the peace process. But a person who has little or no international diplomacy experience has been able to fashion this fantastic deal for some observers in the Middle East. So this is also a fantastic triumph for not Jared Kushner alone, but also for Trump.
So let me come to you, Dayo, because he just said that this is a fantastic deal, but the Palestinians say they were never carried along. So a lot of people say, look, you cannot keep out the Palestinians in a deal that has to do with them in the first place, because we're also talking about annexation of Palestinian lands. What do you make of that?
I think, like he said, it's simply a trade-off. Look, eventually, I mean, we're getting to the point where we have to resolve whatever problems we've had over the years. I mean, I'm referring to the Middle East now. They have taken no cognizance whatsoever, except, like he said, they have been stopped from continuing the annexation. That's all that's in the deal. Nothing else. There were no specific terms whatsoever to hinder them from continuing perpetually.
Just allow me, Button, because you said we have to, it has gotten to a time where all of these issues in the Middle East should be resolved. But this pocket of deals we're seeing everywhere, whether between Taliban and Afghanistan, Israel and UAE, does it really fix the issue in the Middle East?
I think it's a starting point. Now, you must understand that we have things we call change agencies. Basically what they do is they initiate a process. Now, this is simply what this is doing. They're initiating a process and a possibility. Now, it might work out, it might not work out, but at least the process has started, the conversation has started, and things begin from there. From all indications, there are other Arab nations that have indicated their interest in making peace with Israel. That includes Morocco and the Bahrain Republic. So basically, it started something, and that's what's the most important thing. It's a trigger. It's a change agency, and it seems to be working. That's the most important thing.
Policy analyst Dayo Fagbulu and Dr. Bola Adediran, thanks to both of you for talking to us.
Thank you very much.